With Hollow Knight Silksong coming out this week, I decided that for once I was gonna make a video that was topical. Hollow Knight is one of my favorite games ever, and one of the biggest reasons for that is the absolutely amazing hand-drawn aesthetics that the game presents us with. Every character is so simple, yet so full of personality and mystery, and that's something I really admire. Enter Super Smash Bros. Another one of my favorite series of all time, with some of my favorite characters in all of existence. So, as another one of my quirky art projects, I decided to mix up the two. What if Smash Bros. Characters were in Hollow Knight? Basically, the plan here was to select a few characters from the Smash roster and reimagine them as the bug NPCs from Hollow Knight. Before we begin though, two things. Number one, please like and subscribe. I love making these art projects, but they do take a long time to make, so I just want it to be worth it, you know? And number two, I wanted to establish a few sort of rules for this. Those being that I wanted to draw these characters mirroring how the NPCs appear in the game itself. Simple designs with remarkable features that stand out, very light shading and faded out colors. I wanted to mirror the game's aesthetics as much as possible. So without further ado, let's begin with... Alright, let's not beat around the bush with this one. You saw the thumbnail, I'm not here to waste your time. For Link, I decided to go with a look that sort of mirrors the, let's say, default Beetle characters that you see around. Like some of the early enemies and even Quirrell himself. I think one of the most remarkable things in Hollow Knight characters is that a lot of them have these white faces with just two big black dots as their eyes. It can be a face, or a mask, or a shell, or an eye, I guess. But it's sort of a constant in a lot of the characters, so I cared that to a bunch of the designs I did today. And a lot of them also just have various types of horns in lots of different shapes. So for Link, I gave him two horns, resembling like a spiky hair kind of thing, and one pointy one resembling his Hylian ears. His body resembles Quirrell's body, but in green, and his sword and shield is like a very simplified version of the Master Sword and the Hidden Shield. Their sword looking like a nail, and the shield sort of resembling the shield that Tiso carries around with him. He has a bow too, which isn't really a thing for characters in Hollow Knight, but you know, I think it adds to the silhouette. I'd imagine he's the sort of character that you'd find and have like some quirky, no dialogue interaction with, you know, like maybe he gives you an item to use somewhere and just walks away with no words. So yeah, I hope you like him, and let's move on to... I actually struggled a lot with what I wanted to do for Mario in this project. All I knew is that I wanted to include him and that I wanted to somehow have him wear a hat that would keep the silhouette of Mario's cap. So after some thinking, I decided to have him be this sort of short little warrior guy with the traditional beetle body that a lot of the NPCs have, but I actually gave him a mushroom hat, which is fashioned after the mushroom NPCs from the original game. And I thought I'd give him some pieces of red armor on his shoulders and chest to bring the design home. So this way it mirrors the look of Mario's outfit, but in a different way. At first I kinda wanted him to be one of the vessels like the knight himself, but I think he works best as a separate NPC you meet in your journey, given that I gave him this round-ish chubby body. And the mustache, of course, I couldn't have done this without the mustache. As for how to find him in the game, well, we'll need another NPC with him to tell that story. I kinda went in a different direction with Luigi. I didn't think it was necessary to include his hat in any way. I think his face and body language makes it clear who this is supposed to be. I made him super tall and lanky with a beetle-ish body, and the horns on his head are sorta supposed to resemble Luigi's hair when he's not wearing his traditional cap. He has a black mustache to mirror Mario's, and his eyes are like scared. And I put his hands close together like that to bring home the fact that he's, you know, insecure, the poor guy. So I'd imagine that in the game he'd be an NPC that you find earlier on, being sort of scared and talking about his brother who he believes is invincible and a great warrior and all that. And then the irony of that would be then meeting Mario later on and seeing this dude who you think is a huge warrior actually being a short little stubby man. But he actually is a great warrior, so don't judge someone by their appearance. I also struggle a bit with what to do with Pikachu too, but I came up with this idea to actually turn him into one of the bee NPCs. Probably because I was looking for yellow characters to base this on, but whatever. So yeah, I basically took that small bee dude NPC guy and made him a bit longer to match Pikachu's body. I turned his thing into his lightning shaped tail, which I guess looks a bit weird, but I think it's fine. He remains with the brown fur that the bees have, and then I decided to shape his bee wings into the silhouette of Pikachu's ears, which I think turned out very cute. I'd imagine he'd be a character you find hidden inside the beehive doing something cute, I guess. Not an enemy or anything, just kinda there. So yeah, I hope you like him.
Hitos, come!
So my idea for DK was a bit outside the box. I was trying to think of a type of character that could match his body shape, and I think someone like Barloon fit really well. Barloon is a sort of hidden NPC you find that is actually like a huge worm thingy that sprawls all over one of the levels in the game, and his face blinks, which is kinda disturbing for me. But I took him as inspiration and made DK into this sort of fake worm guy, who's not really long at all, but you see the vision here, right? I gave him some horns that resemble the classic DK hair, and a bit of red cloth there that would look sorta like his time. I think he'd be like one of those sort of characters you find that look sorta calm and harmless, but is actually super dangerous in a fight. But I don't think we wanna fight with him, right? Like, look at him, he's so wholesome. Okay, so I didn't want all my characters to be the same, you know, white face with different horns thing, so I had a quirky idea for Lucario. Hollow Knight has a bunch of different species for bugs, and one of them are the moths. So I thought I could model him after a moth. Big red eyes that are sparkly and attracted to light. His ears on the top there are supposed to be like the funky antennas that moths have in the game, and in real life too. He has a bunch of fur on his neck like the moths have in the game, and a few additional ones on the back there that like mimic those ear fur thingies that Lucario has. And he has like those things that bugs have on the low area there. I think that's called an abdomen. I don't know, I'm not a scientist. But it's supposed to reflect Lucario's tail. I think just like the other moths in the game, he'd probably be like a wise character that speaks in riddles and probably does some weird stuff. I don't know. I decided to do the 3 Pokemon fighters from the Pokemon Trainer character, starting of course with Squirtle. He's the simplest one, really. He's the one that looks the most like one of the more default bug enemies that you find in the early game. I just added a little bug thing there to look like his tail, and with Venusaur I took inspiration from those awful and annoying flying enemies that everyone hates. He has a similar face and body, even though he's not a flying dude, and he has some leaves there, with some little like colored bubbles on top to mimic Venusaur's flower. They're supposed to be sort of like the orange infection bubbles that you find around the game, but pink, which means they're good, probably. Charizard was a bit harder, but it did something that I think turned out pretty fun. He's based on the mine species, especially those annoying ones that fly around. I just made him similar to that, but a lot thicker to look like Charizard's round body. He has some thick thighs and 2 pairs of wings there, like just like the other Mantis, and a big sting. They be the sort of characters that you find around in groups, and like each one of them has a quirky personality and talks over each other, you know what I mean? Nah. That makes a pretty simple one, to be honest, given that he's a pretty small guy. I modeled him after the vessels like the knight himself, the difference being that he has a more bug-like body. His face has some horns to resemble Mac's hair, and I made some boxing gloves for him made out of shells. I think he's probably the kind of character you find around the game who's small but tough, and he's always challenging you, trying to prove that he's a tough guy, even though he's small, you know? Okay, so this might be a bad look for poor Olimar here, but I thought it'd be kinda fun if I modeled him after the fluke species that appear in the game. I guess it was because those big mouths that they have could sort of be styled into looking like the shape of Olimar's big nose, which I think is his most noteworthy feature. They also have this little gross hair in the back there that I tried pushing up to resemble Olimar's hair. He's using one of those jellyfish enemies as his big astronaut helmet, and his Pikmin are those little thingies that you may find him walking around the game. I don't know what they're called, if I'm honest. I think he looks funny, and he'd probably be an NPC in the game that's like one of the only flukes that can talk, and a chick-like thought, other than being another monster, just lanes.
Better.
For Pit, I thought it'd be fitting for him to be a vessel as well. Pit is a small guy who's the protagonist of his game, which is similar to, you know, the knight. I made his horns be sort of random in shape, not super like entirely coherent with Pit's hair, but they're spiky and wild just like it, so I think it works. He has a golden bow and some leaves there, and some bug wings that are sort of similar to the Monarch wings item that you can find in Hollow Knight, and he probably the sort of NPC that doesn't really speak, but is instead guarding someone else. That someone else being Palutena. The inspirations for her were number 1, Marisa, the singer butterfly lady, and number 2, the white lady. She has this segmented bug body, an idea I got from Marisa, and this glowy blue divine-like eyes, just like the white lady, who herself is kinda like a deity too. Her horns there are supposed to resemble Palutena's hair accessory things that I don't know the name of, and her hair is actually not hair at all. It's more like a kind of cloth that's similar to the cloak that the knight wears. She has a little bug chest there that's connected to some white cloth that makes up Palutena's dress, and her shield is supposed to be like a bug shell, and her staff is supposed to be broken at the end there to sort of sell the idea that she's part of this destroyed kingdom that is Hallownest. And the top there is like one of those lampposts in the game that have a little firefly inside. I think she will be one of the characters that is very hidden and gives you an item that's probably useless, and then say some cryptid stuff to mess with your mind. So I had no idea what I wanted to do with Kirby. My first idea was to turn him into a fluke too, just because they're pink, really, but make him super round and thick with little arms, but that looked very cursed. So I modeled him after one of those green nightmare creatures, and all I did was make a smaller and rounder one with a pinkish color and blue eyes. It'd probably just be a random NPC that jumps and flies around to mess with you.
Get the
So Samus actually has had a few different people give a shot at drawing her as a character in Hollow Knight, probably because the game's a Metroidvania, a genre that started with her series, Metroid. So all I did was take this design that a bunch of people made different versions of and just do it in my own style. So props to the people who made this before me. I don't know who it is, I couldn't find the original artist. I'm sorry. I mean, I think I definitely made her more detailed and, let's say, realistic than Hollow Knight NPCs should be, but I couldn't help myself. The idea here is that this isn't really an armor, this is supposed to be her body itself, and her helmet is her face. It's just shaped like Samus' original helmet. Her gun is like a crustacean shell, and I made her chest area there a red color so it stand out more and make it clear that it's Samus. And I gave her some blue light thingies around there too to make it look like she's running on lifeblood. And I give her those weird digit-grade legs that I think are fitting for a bug character. I think she'd be a character that you find after the end of a long streak of difficult fights, either being the final most difficult fight or the one to give you a reward.
Papanada.
So the idea here was that with Samus being a bug, whose body is, like that, if she gets hit and loses all her lives, she'd go into Zero Suit Samus mode. In Hollow Knight, when you lose, you turn into a shade. And in Metroid, when you lose your armor and turn into Zero Suit Samus. So I mixed the two ideas into one. Zero Suit Samus is the shade version of Samus. And it's a simple design, really, to look how Samus does in her Zero Suit, but super dark and floaty like the shades in Hollow Knight. Come on, I can't be the only one that thought this was gonna be a clever idea. And for the last one I did, I picked Sephiroth, because I thought it'd be kind of a challenging one, and it kinda was. I wasn't super sure what to do with him, but I came up with this idea to have him be a mantis, which is fitting considering that the mantis tribe is composed of fierce warriors. His antennas there are supposed to have the silhouette of Sephiroth's quirky anime hair, and his actual hair back there is similar to Palutena's, being some pieces of cloth instead of actual hair. I gave him the metal shoulder pads that Sephiroth has too, only making them a bit more bug-like. He has a long neck, since most mantis characters have that, and a long bug abdomen, covered by a black cloak, to mirror Sephiroth's own black cloak. And of course, his nail is super long, just like Sephiroth's quirky katana. And yeah, I think he turned out cool and unique. Maybe, I don't know. And that's all the characters I did for today. Please let me know if perhaps I should do all these Smash characters in this style and turn it into one huge video about this. I'm tempted to do it, but only if there's people watching this that want it, So yeah, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. I love drawing and doing these silly mashup ideas, so also let me know if you have any other ideas like this for me to do. Anyway, yeah, bye guys.